Welcome to the All Metal Mode podcast with your host, Michael Hare. Tune in every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern with co-host Gypsy Jules, and every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern with Matt Hoffman as we talk to guests, discuss metal detectors, equipment, and everything treasure related. Feel free to join in the discussion in the chat room during the show, and please, if you like what you hear, we'd appreciate you taking a moment, hit that like button, and share the link with your friends. We hope you enjoy the show. The All Metal Mode podcast starts right now.
Nocta Macro Detectors is the fastest growing manufacturer in the industry, and for good reason. Many detectorists, including Mike Hare, call us the most innovative, but we are so much more than that. We listen to and care about our customers. We also offer a wide range of detectors to fit all of your needs. Come check out all of our products today at www.noctadetectors.com. Detectors for everyone, everywhere. A lifetime.
Hey everybody, this is Mike here, and you're listening to the All Metal Mode podcast with my very special co-host, Mr. Matt Hoffman on Tuesday nights. He is officially over the butt flu, and he is back with us. So that's good. You can find us on All Metal Mode on Facebook, All Metal Mode Podcast UK as well on Facebook. Don't forget, every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, All Metal Mode UK. And, of course, Monday and Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, All Metal Mode, both Monday and Tuesday. I believe I said that. allmetalmode.com. You can find my articles up in the navigation. You'll see articles. Click on that. It'll take you to them. I just posted one today. I think it's a pretty good read. I think it's definitely something to read. It's about these fake detectors and these knockoff detectors and pinpointers, and I've been gathering a little bit of information. I think it's worth a reading, especially if you've thought about doing it. Dirt Digest Magazine, dirtdigestmagazine.com is how you find it. It's a new free online metal detecting magazine. They're doing a great job. They only have one article or one issue out yet, but it's a great issue. They'll be having them every month, and so really looking forward to that and doing some work with them and stuff. And great magazine. Again, it's free. Go check it out. 2019 Watts Rendezvous, 3-day golden treasure hunt, June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, Mancos, Colorado. $215 per person. Cutoff is May 15th. Texas Treasure Show, 26th, 27th, and 28th of April. Coming up here in a couple weeks, Carthage, Texas. Next week, I think we've got some pretty good things lined up. I don't have Monday as 100% yet, but Tuesday I will have Scott Treckler talking Amphibio with me and Matt. Matt and I both have Amphibios, so that ought to be a good show. We'll talk about programs and all that kind of stuff. If you know anybody in Amphibio, help us get the word out. Tonight's guest is Dale Sparkman. And last night I was saying sparkling. The gentleman who sent me his name, I suspect that there was a autocorrect and it messed up his name, but he was listening last night and he's like, "Who's Dale Sparkling?" So we apologize for that, Dale. It is Dale Sparkman. And boy, I can't. You know me. I love talking to these guys that have been doing it since forever. And I'm 43 and he's been doing it since before I was born. So wow. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing actually pretty good. Feeling good, man.
You finally got over that explosive diarrhea, huh?
Oh, the explosive diarrhea. That's right.
It
I was
happens.
tied up. Unfortunately, I was tied up last week. I had a business event that I was doing up in Chicago, and I don't know if the show. I don't know about last week, but then I think the week before I was sick, and I've been sick there for a while, but I'm feeling fantastic actually.
Oh, that's good, man. Good news. Yeah, Bill just said there's a Civil War show coming up. Civil War show coming up soon here in Ohio too. That might be something worth going to. Hey Dale, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. You?
I'm doing great. Real pleasure to have you on. I'm so happy. I'd mentioned his name who got me in touch with you, but I don't know if he wants to be mentioned, but I'll definitely have to thank him again for it. But yeah, if you're listening, we appreciate it.
I bet he is.
I'll have to get him on sometime. Dale, a lot of people don't listen live. We get a lot of people through the week that'll download it and listen to it on their way to work or while they're working, but not a lot of people listen live. So that ought to make it a little bit better. I should have told you that before. You seemed a little nervous. And so Bill said OhioCivilWarShow.com. It's Saturday, Sunday, May 4th and 5th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So OhioCivilWarShow.com. Check it out. We should know more of what's going on around the country, Matt, and announce that stuff.
Yeah, we should. I should probably look a lot of that stuff up and stay up with it throughout the week, and then I'll add that to my things I should do.
Mm-hmm. For all the listeners, I'm constantly giving Matt a list of things to do,
and I usually don't do them.
No,
but it's not that I don't want to.
Yeah,
and it's not that I'm just defiant. I have such a hard time staying on track with anything.
Dale, have you ever heard of a fart in a skillet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, that's an old saying. I've always, fart in a skillet means you're just all over. One of them guys that's all over the place, run around like a chicken with his head cut off. That's Matt. That's Matt.
Okay.
That boy's going in 52 different directions at the same time. Yep. So, again, Dale, it's a real pleasure to have you on. Real honor. So tell us, when did you get started?
1971, when I bought my first metal detector from National Treasure Hunters League in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. I remember you. I'd like for you to get into that a little bit. What'd you buy?
A Garrett Coin Hunter BFO, non-discriminating.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, at that time you didn't have the pull tab, so you didn't run across as much junk as you do now.
Mm-hmm.
So you still did pretty good without a discriminator. There's a lot more stuff to find back then than there is now, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've had a long, how many years has it people been out metal detecting?
Right.
Actually, since the 60s, I think.
Yeah.
Around 60s. I know some people that got started, I think it was like 67 or so. So, they've been doing it longer than I have, and so all the parks and stuff, it's hard to find any silver in them anymore.
They are getting tough.
But it is still there.
Absolutely.
I went to one of the parks here in Luling today and found a buffalo nickel. It was down
nice.
about 6 inches or so. So there's still a few old coins left out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they are. I think the more advanced our detectors get, we get a little bit more, and private property is still. Thankfully, there's the hobby's really growing, and there's still so many people that are scared to knock on doors and stuff. And Matt does real good. He'll go knock on doors, and he's got into some really good honey holes and stuff, and it's still out there. But yeah, it's not like back when you started. There were times I'm sure you went home with pockets full of silver, I would guess.
Well, pretty much. There at the beginning, just about every place you went. I used to go to the school that I went to when I was in elementary school, and it was built in the 40s. And when I first went up there, it was for the first probably almost a year, I had no trouble finding silver up there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you have any idea how many silver coins you found over the years?
Oh no, I don't. Back in the 80s, when I think it was I say 80s, either 79 or 80. Whenever the Hunt brothers, the price of silver went way up.
Mm-hmm.
I sold most of the silver that I had. I kept a few things, but I sold most of them at that time. I think you could get I think one dime was going for like $1 or something for one dime, silver dime.
And back in the 80s, that was real good. That's about what they're going for now, $1.20 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's hard not to sell at those prices.
But I don't know. I found, quite a few, but I'm sure there's plenty of people that's found more than me. Because here lately, I don't hunt as much as I used to. Of course, I've gotten older. I've started having problems with one of my knees and things like that. I've had a heart attack back in, I think it was 2000, and that kind of put a damper on me doing stuff in the heat during the summertime. I can't take the heat anymore like I used to.
Yeah.
But I still try.
Right. Yeah, well, you were out today. That's awesome. So you started off with an old BFO detector. What detectors have you used along the way?
All of them.
All of them, he says.
Now, I think about the only one that the only brand that I never have had was a D-Tex.
Yeah.
I never owned a D-Tex, but from the Garrett BFO, when they came out with the TR, when Garrett came out with that TR with the discrimination in it, I got one of those. And then when White's came out with their Coinmaster 4 with the discriminator, I got one of those. And, of course, at this time I was working at Ray Smith, so I could, anything new that came out, I could test it, and see if I really liked it or see how the sensitivity or the discrimination was. But anyway, and then when the Coinmaster 5 came out, Coinmaster 5 came out, it was a non-discriminating, but it was real big for the relic hunters because it would pick up iron so deep. But anyway, they added a discrimination unit in that later on, and I got one of those. I've had Tesoro. I've had Compass. I used to have several compasses. I've got Garrett now. I've got White's now. I've got. I sold an E-Track here about a month or so ago and got a Equinox, and I'm still learning on that Equinox. But that's mainly what I'm using now. But I do have 3 Ace 250s, which I like those a lot. They're good for if you're not hunting something real deep. They're real good. But I think I've got a White's Treasure Pro now. And I've got I don't have the original, but when Garrett came out with their discriminating BFO, I bought one. And later on, I traded it in on that Coinmaster 5, I think it was. And later on, I started missing it. And so Ray had another used one, the Garrett BFO in there, and I got it. And I still have it, and it still works.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Do you still take it out?
That's what I used to use in the water. Before I got a water machine, I'd take that out to the lake in case, anybody splashed me or accidentally dropped it. It wouldn't be a loss. Like, I think at that point I was using that Compass, what was it, XP Pro. And I certainly didn't want to, drop it in the water. But, I used that Garrett BFO for the water machine for a pretty good while.
Now, how did you like the E-Track and why'd you sell it?
Mainly because of the weight. I guess I've got a touch of arthritis in my shoulders. And, the areas that I hunt don't have an abundance of targets, and so sometimes you walk around swinging that for 5 minutes or so without a rest, and it would start wearing on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for something a little bit lighter, which that Equinox is. But I really did enjoy that E-Track. I like the way you could pretty much tell what size it was by the the target by the first numbers, and then the second numbers would kind of give you a clue to the conductivity of it. You could pinpoint a copper penny real easy from the zinc pennies. Of course, that zinc penny could be an Indian head though too. So.
Right.
But anyway, that's where I'm at now. I'm getting used to that Equinox.
E-Track was one of my favorites for many years. I really had a good time and a lot of good finds with an E-Track. But like you, it just that thing kind of wrecked my shoulder. And boy, that's a heavy one. It sure is.
Well, that makes three of us for sure, because that's E-Track is one of my favorite machines. However, I can't swing it because it absolutely destroyed my shoulder.
Yeah. But before that E-Trax, I had a Sovereign, MindLab Sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, it didn't have a meter, but I liked it. It did a good job.
I've heard a lot of people talk real high of the Sovereign.
Yeah. In fact, I found T. Miller, a local, T. Miller artillery button that I sold for $2,000 with that.
Oh, wow.
The IRS isn't listening, are they?
Nope, hopefully not. You meant $2. You sold it for $2, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, what kind of button was it?
It was a T. Miller, which they were in Houston. They were, what they call local. It was one of the few button makers in the South during the Civil War.
Oh,
and they didn't really get started until along towards the end of the Civil War, so they didn't make a whole lot of buttons. But anyway, I found an artillery button, and I had found a T. Miller cavalry button prior to that, so I kind of recognized the one-piece cast brass. It wasn't marked. The cavalry button was marked T. Miller and Sons, Houston, but that artillery wasn't. But not all the T. Millers are marked. But anyway, I had kind of had an idea of, that was a good button, and sure enough, when I got home, I got one of Albert's books, button books, and that's the one that I think I was telling you about. Dorian Cook talked me into buying years ago when he worked over at Garrett. Yeah, and I was glad that he did.
How cool is it? Matt, he knows Dorian Cook, and he knows
Keith Wills.
Keith Wills, yeah. How cool is that, man? That's so neat.
Used to sell him the headphone socks.
You were telling me that, yeah.
Yeah, and finally my wife got tired of making them and not getting paid for it, so she quit making them. So I had to quit selling them. Of course, that's a lot of work goes into those.
Yeah.
But anyway, I saw where somebody else here a few years ago started selling them too. So I guess you can still get them.
Huh. Now, what do you mean socks?
Well, it fit over the headphones. It was just terry cloth that was held on with some elastic.
I
it
gotcha.
would keep it in place over the headphones, and that way during the summertime, it would absorb the sweat from your ears because, I used to do a lot of detecting in the, summertime.
Yeah.
But my ears would always, with the headphones, that plastic cover, your ears would sweat. It would bother me. And so I came up with the idea to get my wife to make what I called headphone socks. And, they sold pretty good for a while. But like I said, she had a full-time job, and then she'd make those on the side, and she kind of got tired of that.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I'd like to see a pair of them. I get what you're saying. Yeah, so would they fit different size muffs, or did you make them for each size, or was there one particular brand?
Well, back then, the headphones were pretty much all the same.
Yeah.
Same design and everything. Where I had bought some. Can I name a brand, or am I not supposed to do that?
No, that's okay.
I bought some Killer Bees, and I tried to put them on the Killer Bees, and they wouldn't stay on the Killer Bees, so she had to redesign them and make a pair that would stay on my Killer Bees.
Yeah.
But they would just slide over the top, and like I said, pretty much at that time, this is back in the, what was that, back in the early 90s, all the headphones pretty much were the, same style and size and everything, so they would fit on, several different brands.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So all the detectors you've used, what's some of your favorites over the years?
Well, I'd have to say the E-Track.
Yeah, the E-Track,
and it, seems like the Equinox is going to be one of mine too.
Good. How are you coming along with your Equinox, Matt?
Well, if I'm being perfectly honest, I've given the Equinox to my buddy to play with for a little bit before I send it down to you. I very much hate the machine. I don't like it. It's just not me. I mean, there's enough people that really like it that tells me that it is a good machine. It obviously works, but I can't, up against the 3030. It's a little faster. It may pull some stuff that the 3030 might miss in some heavy concentrated areas with iron and stuff. However, if you slow down with the 3030 and take your time, you'll find a lot of that. For me, some of the stuff that the Equinox lacks, I don't know. I'm not a fan. And to each his own. I'm glad people are having fun with it. I'm glad it's working great for people. I was really kind of excited to try it out, and I found that after a number of hunts with it, I don't really like it. Just a lot of things I don't like about it, and I've decided at this point it's not a machine that I personally would like to spend any more time with. I would much rather kick back to maybe the Rudis or the Amphibio or the Cruiser, or almost. I'll be honest, almost anything but the I like the ORX in certain situations. But and now let me say this: my buddy Mark got picked up an Equinox the same time I got picked one up, and he absolutely loves his. He's just grinning from ear to ear, and he loves it. And like I said, I guess maybe just there's things about the machine specifically that I don't like. The sound to me doesn't sound as great coming out of any pair of headphones or anything. I like the features. I like the way it's set up. I like what it has to offer, but I think a lot of losing the target trace and stuff like that from the 3030 and some of the volume gains and stuff like that. Just a lot of the different places I hunt, I don't know. I really like that 3030. And so, I don't know. For me, it's just, I can only say it's not for me. That's,
No, and I'm glad you can say that. Every once in a while, I'll get a message that, I've gotten messages that I'm too hard on some detectors, and, people can't believe I didn't like this or that, And what I would say to that is, hey, we're all different. There's detectors I love that other people can't stand, and vice versa. The T2, we've talked about this. I know a bunch that I never liked a T2 F75. They weren't my thing. Doesn't mean they're bad detectors. I don't personally like them, and that's okay. So, my God, look what people are doing with the 800. It's a good detector.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I know it's a great machine because too many people like it and too many people have good things to say about it. for it not to be. But it's just not the right machine for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, sorry, Dale, we kind of got off on a little tangent
okay.
there. What do you
gave my brain a rest?
What do you like about it, Dale?
Well, the lightweight.
Yeah.
And It doesn't seem to be as complicated. I'm not all that good with computers because I'm from the age where, we didn't go to school and have computers and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. But so that E-Track, I know that it could have done more than what I was doing with it because I just didn't understand exactly. I'd get confused sometimes on all the different things you could do with it. And I just stuck to the basic program that I had on there that would find stuff. And so I never really tried to divert from that mode, because I was finding stuff, so I didn't want to mess it up and get it to where I didn't find nothing. So, but anyway, I like it that it seems like I already know how to work it. I'm
good.
I'm more clear on that than I was on the E-Track.
Yeah.
So, one thing, though, I'll say that they did do with the Equinox, which it really lacks essentially with the E-Track and the 3030, is the user interface is very easy to understand. That makes huge strides for a lot of people, I think. It's just very simple to manipulate the programs, manipulate what you're doing, and get it set up right for where you're at. And it makes it very easy to set up just about anything for any condition. So, that I think is one, far stretch from the E-Track and the 3030 that the Equinox definitely has an advantage for a lot of people. But, yeah, like I said, unfortunately, it's just not for me.
Yep. You there?
No comment.
Guys, I was waiting on Dale to comment. Sorry.
Oh, well, I didn't have a comment.
Now, do you, Dale? Do you find that? Do you end up using the wireless headphones that the Equinox come with, or do you split off to the WM8 module and use your own headphones then?
Yes. I use my own headphones because I tried. It came with the wireless, and that was another thing that kind of confused me because I had a AT Max, and it had those wireless headphones, and I was able to pair it up with the AT Max no problem. But on that Equinox, I had a hard time, and once it finally did pair up, I know the next time I went to try to use it, it was unpaired again, so I had to go through all this process and try to remember, okay, now what do I do now? And finally got it paired up again, but I said, I don't want to be spending my time trying to do this, so I just got that wire connector and hooked my Killer Bees onto it.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was kind of in the middle of watching the chat a little bit and see what was going on. Did you just say that you had the Garrett? Have you tried the Max?
Yes, I had a AT Max.
Not a big fan, or
after using that E-Track, where you have when you go over iron, you don't hear a bunch of chatter. I never could get used to the AT Max with the chatter, the iron setting and all that. I tried it, and I just couldn't get used to it. So I just, ended up going back to the E-Track.
Yeah. It seems like people love or they hate the Max. And it was hard pressed when the Pro, anybody that didn't like the Pro, but Gypsy loves the Max and she does really good with it. I think you just one of the things you got to get used to, or you got to understand it's a chatty machine or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I had the Compass XP Pro, and that was, a real quiet machine when it came to iron and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what got me sold on it, because I used that that XP Pro for a pretty good while. I think I had it for about 6 or 7 years that I used that thing. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I actually bought another one just in case, mine broke down. Matter of fact, I did have Keith work on it one time. It got to where it wasn't working, and I sent it to Keith, and and he got it working and even put more sensitivity into it.
Oh.
So, but I think that's what kind of spoiled me right there, where you run over nails. Sometimes it does come in good if you're hunting for an old house site. It's good to be able to hear the nails and stuff. Of course, you can turn your discrimination down if you want to hear the nails. But when I don't want to hear the nails, well, I don't want to be bothered with a bunch of reject noises and stuff.
I'm a big fan of the Nocta macros, and one of the things I love about them is you can control your iron volume. And that's a huge selling point for me. So like when I'm at a park, I'll turn it off to where I can't even hear the iron. Well, and I don't know about you, I kind of like to run a machine as wide open as I can. But, when you run them wide open, you're getting all that chatter and stuff. But, like the Nocta macros, I can turn it off. I can run it wide open and not have to listen to the iron and stuff. And I like that a lot. And then that's like the multi-cruiser, the Amphibio, you can actually adjust the volume for however many tone breaks you have. So 5-tone, you got 5 different settings. You could set, your iron off and your mid-tones kind of low, and then so I really like that, because I find if I have a lot of tones, a lot of stuff going on in my ears, I start to get fatigue, right. trying to process all those tones. So if I can calm it down and not have to sit there and listen to all of them, I definitely hunt better. So that's it. Now I think the Amphibio, you can turn the iron volume down and stuff too, can't you?
Yeah, you have the same on the Amphibio as the cruiser. You can play with the iron volume
on the 800. You mean you said Amphibio and multi-cruiser?
I'm sorry. Yeah, on the 800 you can turn the. Well, yeah, not the same as you can on the Nocta macro stuff, but yes, you can.
What do you mean not the same?
Well, it's a little bit different how it's set up, but you can if you go into the two things. And before I say that, let me say that you can also set the what are they called? It's one of the features. The last feature on that list as it goes down from left to right. You can also set the iron bias levels, which could really help you if you're dealing with a ton of iron. And then if you just discriminate the stuff out and then set your iron bias, that you could get away with essentially doing the same thing, but not exactly the same, but sort of.
I gotcha. Similar, but not the same. Gotcha. What was I going to ask you next? I was going to ask you about one of the detectors you mentioned. I forget now. You were talking about what was it, the Treasure League out of Dallas?
Yes, National Treasure Hunters League, Ray Smith's National Treasure Hunters League. That at that time, back in the early 70s or whatever, he had dealers all over the country, and that was kind of like the Kelly Co. is now, I guess. Back then, I don't know when Kelly Co. got started, but the only thing I ever heard of back then was National Treasure Hunters League. Because they carried all the different brands. They carried Garrett, Detex, Whites, all of them. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't all that many back then.
Right.
You had the Metrotech 220A. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I've heard of the Metrotechs, I do believe, at some point.
Yeah. That was a a pretty good machine back then. It was a TR, but it was non-discriminating, but it had real good sensitivity, but it didn't have a speaker. You had to either use headphones or you could buy an external speaker that you could plug into it. But
Yeah.
it had real good sensitivity. A lot of people would use those if they was out, cash hunting or something, looking for something big. They wasn't ideally for coins, although they would pick up coins. I think they was mainly, designed for the little bit larger targets.
I gotcha, for the cash hunters.
Yeah. But no, Ray Smith was Charles Garrett's brother-in-law.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he was Charles' wife, Eleanor, is Ray's sister. And I've heard that she's still doing, pretty good. I think she goes to those hunts, like the hunt that they just had for his birthday.
Yeah.
Just a couple of weeks. I think she goes to those. I know she was at the one they had the year before last, because I talked to some people that were there and spoke with her and said that she's still doing real good and good spirits and everything. But anyway, yeah, I think the National Treasure Hunters League has been gone since about 1980 or 81. I think is when it kind of disbanded.
Yeah. Do you know what happened, or?
Well, Ray, back in, I think it was around 79, Ray bought in with Bounty Hunter and moved over to Arizona to help design some of the Bounty Hunter metal detectors and go into business with them. And soon after that, he developed cancer and passed away. But he sold the one in Dallas, the National Treasure Hunters League. He sold that to Ken McCullough. And I knew Ken, and he ran it for a while. And I think, I'm not sure what happened, but I know that, they were only in business like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And just kind of, that was it.
Yeah. Huh. That's a shame.
Now that I don't live in Dallas, I don't really get to keep up with stuff like that. I moved away from Dallas when I got married in 1981, when I got married for the second time. I moved up to Denton, and I have visited Dallas a few times, but I haven't moved back to Dallas, so I'm not sure what goes on there anymore.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you've been detecting since 71. Boy, that's a lot of years. That's something to be proud of. I'm sure you've had some amazing finds over the years. I would love it if you would share some of your favorite finds over the years.
Well, I was, since I was working at the National Treasure Hunters League, a lot of times people would call up and say, hey, we lost a ring or something, along that lines. And they would, refer them to me because Ray was, off doing different other things. He didn't have time for that. But anyway, one lady had called up and said that she had lost her ring. She was out raking leaves and wanted to know if somebody could come and look for it. So, I told her I would, and I went over there. It wasn't far from where I lived, and the lady was, I would say she was at least in her 80s, and this is back about 1972 or 3. And anyway, got out there, and after about 20 minutes of going through where she'd raked the leaves up and stuff, I found her ring and her wedding band, and her husband had died a number of years earlier. But anyway, this ring was made out of a $20 gold piece. He had it made when they got married, out of a $20 gold piece, and you could look on the inside of the ring, and it actually had stamped coin. But anyway, that was kind of exciting to, be able to return that to her.
Yeah,
and another time, a house had burned down out in the country, and they had a $14,000 diamond ring in that house that they wanted to try to recover. And so I went out and was able to locate that. Plus, I found two of the two $50 pesos, plus a commemorative Iranian gold coin, and just, a lot of other jewelry and a lot of coins. The guy that the owner of the house, he was a engineer for the United States government, and he had been all over. They'd been to Mexico, Europe, and lived all over. And I guess he kind of would collect some of the coins and stuff. They had a big old bag. It turned out it was like 11 pounds of coins that I, finally located, along with all the other jewelry items and things. But anyway, the main thing was that $14,000 diamond ring, and so the insurance company is the one that hired me to go out and look for it. And I got a 10% finder's fee on that. Plus, that guy, the owner, I think his name was Mr. Reynolds. He gave me that bag of 11 pounds of coins.
Wow.
And
That's really cool.
There was a silver dollar, and there was some American silver in there too, along with some of the foreign coins that were silver. So that was kind of fun. And I don't know, that artillery button that I was telling you about, that was exciting. I went back out there for the next probably 2 or 3 months trying to find another one, but that was the only one. But I did find some lead shot. I think this was the area that I found that at was later on I found out it was called Santa Ana Hill, that Santa Ana had camped out on that hill close to Gonzales. And so some of that stuff is probably from the Mexican Army that I found. But I don't know, there was a time that I was hunting.
Oh, hold on real quick. Can you tell our listeners about that button and kind of give the history?
The artillery button?
Yeah.
It was a T. Miller artillery button, T. Miller from Houston. It was what they called a local, because there wasn't, most of the buttons that the Confederates were using was coming from England, because the South didn't have the industry, the North had the industry. But T. Miller was one of the few that made the local buttons, and they didn't get started until towards the end of the war. So there wasn't a whole lot of them made. So they bring a pretty good price. Certain ones do, and that Confederate cavalry button, that was one that I told you about, getting $2, or was it 2,000?
Right. Yeah, $2.
But, I had before that I had found a Confederate cavalry button from T. Miller. So they're made out of one-piece cast brass, so they're kind of easy to recognize when you dig one up, as opposed to a two-piece, button. But I believe I think I got 800 for that, the cavalry button.
Wow.
But back then, I was just barely scraping by, so unfortunately, just about any time I found anything that was worthwhile, it ended up getting sold just to kind of help get by,
Yeah.
I wished that I could have a lot of that stuff back, but oh well.
Right.
It's gone, and it's best not to think about it. But I was able to keep one of the first nice diamond rings, men's diamond rings that I found. In fact, I found it with that BFO, that Garrett BFO out in the water. I still have it today.
Oh,
so,
wow, that's great.
I do have a little bit of the stuff that I found.
That's good.
But I don't know, I was at a old carnival site one time, and there was supposed to have been a racetrack, and I hunted that carnival site quite a bit, and then further on the back was supposedly that where the racetrack was, horse racing. And because this was back in the 1900s or so, and anyway, I wandered around trying to locate that racetrack or where it was. And one day I was out there and got a signal, and it was a Barber $50. And then just a few feet away, I got another signal, and it was a Walking Liberty half, a 1917, the first variety, in good shape.
Wow.
And then just a few feet from that was a Barber quarter, and by that time I was ready to go home and clean them up and look at them, but I went back the day or two later, and there was a Barber dime out there, and this was all in an area like no bigger than 10 feet in diameter.
Oh, wow.
And that was the area that I hunted and hunted and hunted, but I didn't find any more out there. But that'll probably always stick in my mind, too.
Yeah, but, that's pretty amazing. Now, did you find, did you ever get into cache hunting? It seems like in the 70s there were a lot of cache hunters, weren't there?
Well, that's how I started off.
Okay.
You know, I started off because, you know, like I said, I lived in Dallas, and on the weekends I would drive out in the country, and I'd see an old abandoned house or something, and I'd, you know, if it wasn't fenced or whatever, I'd get out and start looking around, and I found plenty of old flattened out buckets and wood-burning stove doors, and, I mean, just odds and then big junk for the first 3 or 4 months. And finally, I just, you know, I had been talking to somebody, said, hey, I hadn't been able to find a buried treasure yet. And they said, well, why don't you just start looking for coins? And so I started looking for coins, and I pretty much gave up the buried treasure because I, you know, at least when I was looking for coins, I was finding them. So
yeah.
that was a lot more fun than just, you know, going out and digging a bunch of junk and not having anything to show for it.
Right.
But,
right. So yeah, I get that. It just seems like, you know, talking to Dorian and stuff, that a lot of the early guys that got into it were into the caches for finding caches.
Yeah. I know. You're from Ohio, isn't it? Or,
mm-hmm.
I think isn't that where Roy Lago was from? Did you know Roy Lago?
No, I've never heard of Roy.
You never have?
No.
Okay, he was one of the old-time treasure hunters. He was buddies with Charles Garrett and Carl Van Mueller and all the old legends. But I ran into him down here in Wimberley. His wife had passed away, and I think his son and daughter-in-law lived down in Wimberley, and he ended up moving down there with him. And he would set up at a flea market selling sluice boxes, and he had a book out, a couple of books out. And anyway, I got to know him, talked to him, and, you know, got one of his books and had him sign it. But, yeah, I know he was a big cache hunter.
Did he find much that he ever talked about?
Not to me, but, you know, most of the smart ones, you know.
Yeah, didn't talk about it.
Yeah. But you heard of Carl Van Mueller, right? He had several treasure books out.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him for sure.
He was, you know, him and Roy Lago were buddies. But, you know, there was a lot of them that looked for caches and stuff back then. Yeah,
I don't know.
There probably still is.
I don't know if you're on Facebook, but there's a little video. It talks about. I've seen it. You know, people kind of recycle the same old stuff, and it's somebody asking a kid for directions, and you go down yonder and you turn right, and then you go back and you left, and there's a big tree, and you turn, you know, and he's just, you couldn't begin to know what this kid is saying, but that's what it reminds. Every time you talk to anytime I talk to one of you old timers, that's what I get. When I start talking cache hunting, well, no, I never, but, you know, so-and-so and might have, and I don't know, you know, it cracks me up because, you know, I'm pretty sure I've talked to some of you old timers that found some good caches, but you ain't giving it up to this day. Won't talk about it. I love that.
Well,
it cracks me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever found anything significant, whether you can tell us or not?
You mean in the way of a cache?
Yep.
I can pretty certainly tell you no.
No.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I wished I had. I mean, if I had, I would tell you a little bit of it. But no, I had. There was a story one time. There was a big old cedar tree out by Ferris, Texas. We used to go dove hunting out there. And this is back when I first got into metal detecting, back in 71, 72. My stepfather grew up there. And he said the story was that there used to be two of those big cedar trees on that over there on that hill in that pasture. But there was supposedly an Indian that had buried some money at one time over there, and somebody cut down one of the cedar trees looking for it. Well, that stuck in my mind, and one night I had a friend of mine take me out there and drop me off, and I went out there in the middle of the night, walking through the pasture to that tree, and hunted around it with that Garrett BFO, but I never came up with nothing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That was kind of my experiences with cache hunting. I just, kind of come up empty-handed. But
Yeah.
I'm sure there's still plenty of them out there to be found.
Mm-hmm. It's having the patience, coming home empty-handed. I think some people are more suited for it than others. I'm not really suited for it, although I feel like I'm getting old enough. If I go out and don't find anything, I'm okay with it. Might be worth trying to track down something, but I don't know. Have you found much more Civil War, any much more Civil War stuff here in Texas?
Not a whole lot. Those two buttons, those two T. Miller buttons,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of, the one that was the Cavalry, that was found around an old house site, and how that got there, I'm not sure, because I don't think that house site was that old. I think it was supposed to have been torn down back in the 30s or something, and there wasn't anything left there. And I found that, and I found some other items there, but that was pretty much the only two buttons that I have found in Texas. I found a Confederate infantry button in Alabama one time. My father used to live in Alabama, and I would hunt around some of the sites over there and came across a Confederate infantry button. But that was about it.
Huh. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Have you hunted over the years? Have you hunted in other parts of the country, or for the most part have you stuck to Texas, or?
Just Texas, mainly.
Texas,
like I said, my father lived in Alabama, so whenever I would go over there and visit, I'd take the metal detector and hunt, some of the areas around there and everything. Mm-hmm. But that's pretty much it. I'm not big on traveling. I haven't been out of Texas in a pretty good while. I guess the last time was, my father's funeral. He was buried in Alabama, so I went back for his funeral, and that was, always lived in Texas and pretty much stayed close to home. Except for the time that I went up to Washington, D.C. and met JFK and shook hands with him.
Oh, no kidding.
I just had to throw that in.
Yeah. Right.
It was back in '63. I got my picture taken, shaking his hand, and at the time we didn't know that we were getting our picture taken, but we found out later on by the White House photographer. He got my stepfather's name and address and sent us the pictures later on.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Pretty neat. Matt, I've kind of taken over here. You got any questions or anything?
No, I'm just listening to the stories. No, I'm just listening. Man, I'm just blown away that you not only found one button that you sold for 2,000 pesos, but that you found another one that you got like 800 pesos out of. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's funny.
What I would say though is that Mike, I spent a lot of time hunting a lot of old house sites and parks and stuff like that. And, Mike really turned me on to doing more kind of relic hunting and more field hunting. And, man, I'm going to be very, very upset once these farmers plant these fields real soon here, because I've been really enjoying the fields much more than I would have ever thought.
So, Dale, let me tell you my side of that story, Dale. So when I was in Ohio, I used to overlay the old maps, and I'd find where old houses were, and it's just a farm field now, and I'd go hunt them, and I'd do real good. That was my favorite detecting. And when I met Matt, I talked to him about it and kind of got him into it. Well, he wasn't real excited about it, and I'm telling you, anybody I've turned on to field hunting, in the beginning, they're not real excited about it. I don't know what it is. Just nobody really gets it. And I even overlaid a few sites for him. He went out and they were a bust. He didn't. One of them he couldn't find. We couldn't figure out what happened. A couple of them just didn't give up things. And I come back to visit in Ohio, and he come to a field site with me one day, and it wasn't a good field site. We didn't find much, but he managed a seed at halftime, and I found a flying eagle, and I think that really got his attention, even though we didn't find much. Well, then he went back home, and he got into some field sites that were really good, and he's found some really neat stuff this spring and over fall too, right? Did you? Yeah, because I was back in the fall.
All winter as well.
Yeah.
We had a very mild winter, so I was able to get out like 90% of the winter time, even when, if the ground was literally not frozen or barely frozen, I was out detecting, and I found a lot of cool stuff since all of last fall and in this spring so far,
Yeah, that's great. So now I got him hooked, and now he doesn't know what he's going to do all summer when the fields are planted.
Well, and I'll tell you, what's funny is I really used to pride myself on weaseling some really nice finds out of some super trashed out areas, and I'd be out there all day and come home with maybe one nice coin or something, and I'd be so proud of myself because it's areas that I know that people just literally have pounded, but they've missed it. But I was in a park the other day, and I was like, man, I don't remember. I guess I didn't remember how trashy some of them spots were, because it was a place I've hunted quite a few times, and I'm like, holy moly, man, I need to get back in the fields.
Yeah. The fields of Ohio always gave me my best finds, I think.
I know I had a field when I'm living in Luling now. We moved here from Martindale, and there was fields all around the mobile home park that I lived in Martindale, and I found out who owned the property, the fields, and I got permission to hunt out there. And there was one field that you could tell by the glass that it was a pretty old house site. And I hunted it. I found some eagle buttons. I think they were a little after the Civil War, though. But found other relics and stuff, but I never found any coins. And I hunted that thing. Of course, it would get plowed, every winter and then planted. And kind of like he's talking about, you couldn't hunt it while the crops were up or whatever. But eventually, after about 5 or 6 years of hunting that thing, I finally found a coin there, and it was a dime, a seated Liberty dime, and the date was wore off of it. But, I thought, there's got to be a coin out here somewhere, and sure enough, eventually I found it.
Have you ever found any large cents here in Texas?
Yes.
Yep.
Back in, I think it was 75. I was living in Dallas, and I was hunting out at White Rock Lake, and I found 1850, I think it's 1853, I believe, large cent.
Huh.
And that's the first and the only one. And I kind of think that somebody probably carried it as a lucky piece because it had quite a bit of wear, and it was only like an inch or two deep, you know, and it was at a area where they would rent it out. Well, you probably don't know anything about White Rock. It was basically built in 1909, supposedly for a additional water source for Dallas, which they never used it for that. They used it for fishing. But in the 20s, they built some buildings that they would rent out. Well, it was around one of these buildings that they used to rent out, and I'm thinking that it was probably dropped, you know, during the 20s or 30s or something, as opposed to, you know, in the 1800s.
Yeah.
But you never know. You know, you never know, you know, about something like that. But that was the only large scent. I found one flying eagle scent around an old house site.
Oh, nice.
Over by Martindale, the same house site that I found a 1896 silver dollar, Morgan dollar.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of other coins. It seems like to me, I kind of determined after hunting some of these old house sites where there's, you know, the house had been gone for a long time. Normally, if you start finding marbles and doll parts, usually you find more coins, I guess, due to the kids losing them, as opposed to one that you don't find any marbles or doll parts. It seems like you don't find as many coins. But yeah, I kind of miss those fields. In fact, I went back over there about 5 years ago. I ran across that guy and asked him, say, you know, can I go back over there and metal detect? He said, sure. And I think I was using that Sovereign. But anyway, once I got over there and walked around for about 2 hours, I realized when I quit metal detecting over there, just wasn't finding anything else, because I hunted those things
hard,
pretty heavy for 5 or 6, 7 years, you know, and I even took a couple of friends of mine over there, and they hunted, and so, you know, they say you never can hunt out a place, but I think, you know, it was hunted out enough to where it sure was boring walking around out there swinging a metal detector and not finding anything.
Right. Yeah, you know, they say, and I think that's true. You can't hunt a place out, but I know I've hunted places out that I don't want to go back anymore. You know, I think that. So, who do? Bill wants to know if the field had ever been plowed after you were there.
Oh yeah. It got planted every year.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, usually those will just keep giving and giving, because as they plow them, they plow more stuff up. And but I guess you hunt it long enough and you'll get it.
It seems that way. I mean, I'm sure that there's probably something else out there, but I couldn't find it. Like I said, I went out there a couple of times and walked around, and like I said, it dawned on me when I quit going back out there.
Yeah. There's a field site. Matter of fact, today my buddy Donnie was in it today, and him and I hunted it years ago, and he's hunted it 2 or 3 times, 4 times this year. I'm not sure how many times, but he went back out there today because he drove by the other day and they'd plowed it and then, you know, kind of knocked it back down. And he's got probably, he sent me a picture, probably 15 more buttons and a 2-center.
Damn.
So, yeah, once they plow them, I mean, he just hunted it a couple weeks ago and just, he spent.
That slipped. I said I wasn't going to do that.
Oh, I don't know what you did, but I sure wouldn't worry about it. We're okay. Oh, you said damn. We're okay.
Yeah.
Damn, we're okay. Damn. No, that's all right.
But, yeah, I, you know, I don't know. It just seems like I've kind of run out of places to go. You know, that area that I was talking about, we don't live there anymore. And the area that we have moved to, they don't plant that much. It's mainly cattle, you know.
Yeah.
They raise cattle and stuff. And I have gotten some permission, like across the road from me. I live outside of the city limits, and there's a guy that I know that owns the property across the road. And I've hunted it. It had an old house site, but I don't think it was all that old. I found some wheat pennies, and that was about it. So I'm thinking it was probably didn't get going until the 20s or something, and they didn't live there for very long.
Mm-hmm. I find Texas really difficult. It's to find those sites and stuff and get permission, where Ohio's pretty easy. I mean, I'm the same where you're at. It's a lot of cattle. They don't do much planting. It's mostly cattle, and it's grown up and everything else, and so first off, I can't find any of the maps to find the old sites. Then you got these big, we got these great big farms, but they're cattle and it's grown up and everything else, and so it's tough. Texas is tough from where I came from. Ohio's easy. I mean, there's just so many, you could take a township, your average township out in the country, and overlay it and give you 5 years. If you could get permission for every one of them, it'd give you 5-10 years of metal detecting. And it's usually very easy to get permission because, as long as their crops are out, the farmers usually don't care. They'll let you in. And so it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy pickings in Ohio. And I'll tell you, a lot of them, I never minded sharing my stuff or my tricks and stuff, how I overlaid anything else, because there's so many sites. I mean, it's endless in Ohio. I mean, it's amazing. You look at I'll give you a quick example. The township I lived in, or the county I lived in, they've got a map for 1858 and then 1870, and I'll tell you what, it's amazing how many of the 1858 houses disappeared by the 1874 or 5 map. Just absolutely incredible. And just in a 20-year span, Ohio was founded in 1803, and there were settlers even before that. So, you get permission for a field, and you hunt where you knew the site was, and then you can go back and you can find the stuff that predated the map often. And it's pretty endless in Ohio. I find Texas really tough. I do.
How come you moved down here?
For a woman. For a woman.
Yeah, we'll do it every time.
Yeah, let me tell you. Yeah. But I like it here. Okay, it's all right. I just need to get to Ohio more. I was hoping to go this spring, and she works for Payless. Well, they're going out of business, so.
Payless what, shoes?
Yeah, Payless shoes. Yeah, they're going out of business.
I didn't know that.
Yep, sure enough.
Well,
so
a lot of these places are.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the internet is taking its toll.
It sure is. So, yeah, we postponed that. I was hoping to do a hunt, go down to the beach a couple days with Gypsy, and had to cancel that. So,
where does she? If she don't think you would mind telling, what town does she live in?
I don't know.
Okay.
She lives. She's told me.
It sounded like it was around Austin or something.
Yeah, she's down around Austin, exactly.
Huh. Okay. Well, Luling's not that far from Austin.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it's like 30 miles.
Huh.
I used to work in Austin, and I used to know my way around Austin, and so I used to do a lot of metal detecting in Austin. But now Austin has closed all their parks to metal detecting. You can't metal detect in their parks anymore.
Huh.
A lot of towns are getting that way. San Marcos is that way. I used to that place, that mobile home that I lived in, that field that was over in Martindale, which is like 5 miles away from San Marcos. I used to go to San Marcos to the parks, and they have the San Marcos River where everybody tubes and swims. So, I had a pretty good place to hunt over there. And after we moved to over here to where we're at, about 3 or 4 months later, I thought, well, I'll go back over to San Marcos and go out to the river and hunt along the river. And I was out there for like 10 minutes before a policeman comes up and says, "Hey, you can't be doing that." And I said, "I can't." And he said, "No, you can't." And I said, "Well, I used to." And he said, "Well, they passed a city ordinance that you can't metal detect on any of the parks or, city property." So, there seems to be getting less and less places to metal detect also.
Yeah, it sure is. It's tough. It is tough.
I know. I think Keith was talking about that. One of the recordings that I heard from when you interviewed Keith one time, he was talking about how, a lot of these places are telling you that you can't metal detect. I had that same experience about 3 weeks ago. There was a town that's like, well, it's not even a town, it's a community. And they have a little park over there, and they have, a little kind of covered area where you can have picnics and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I had gone over there in the past. A friend of mine told me about it, and he used to hunt it a lot. And, I found some Indian heads, some wheat pennies, V-nickels, and, not a whole lot, but it was like 2 or 3 acre park, and apparently it hadn't been hunted a whole lot. But anyway, I was over there like a year or so ago when I was using that E-track. I was kind of learning the E-track, and I found a Indian head. And anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I thought, well, I was looking for a place to go, and I thought, well, I'll go back over there. It's like I said, about 30 miles away. And got out there. The grass was real high. I was kind of disappointed because it was almost too high to swing a metal detector. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, there was an area that had, a little bit of short grass, and I thought, well, I'll just, try it there for a while. While I was setting up the metal detector, a car pulled up, and the window rolled down, and there was an old lady in there. And, well, I mean, I'm 67, and she looked like she had to be at least 75 to 80.
Yeah.
And she said, "Do you have permission to be here?" And I said, "I didn't know I had to have permission to be here." And she said, "You certainly do." And I said, "Well, who do I get permission from?" She said, "Me." And we don't like outsiders. We don't like outsiders. You come over here and y'all mess up the place and tear everything up. And I told her, I said, well, I used to come over here several years ago, and, I didn't tear anything up, and I also carried away a lot of trash. Anytime I find trash, I'd carry it away. Well, she didn't care. She said, all outsiders do is come over here and mess everything up, and you're not welcome. She said, "Where are you from?" I said, I'm from Luling. She said, "There you go, outsider." And I said, "Well, so in other words, you would like me to leave?" And she said, "Yes." So, I made like a 60-mile round trip for nothing, but I'm still thinking that, something's going on there. I don't think she had any authority, but I wasn't going to stand there and argue with her. But I'm going to try to check in, find somebody that I know, a guy that lives, it's Lytton Springs, and I know a guy that lives over there. I'm going to get a hold of him and see if he knows what's going on or not with that lady, if she really has any kind of authority. I mean, a city park, well, if you want to call it a city, it's a community park, but it's got a sign up there saying Lytton Springs Park. And anyway, it kind of made me mad, but like I said, it doesn't surprise me these days that people just don't want you around. But oh well, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, people are pretty. I get tired of these, but like people. It just drives me crazy sometimes. Some of these people.
There's some people that. They've got this idea about people that metal detect. I think they kind of look at them like grave robbers or something like that. Right. I was out at the lake metal detecting one time, and a guy walked up to me, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm metal detecting." He said, "Well, what are you looking for?" And I said, "Well, anything that's, lost, coins or jewelry." And he said, "Well, isn't that like stealing?" And I thought I won't tell you what I thought to myself, but I forget now what I told him. It's been a number of years ago, but that always stuck in my mind. That I guess that's how some people see it, that we're stealing stuff. In other words, if you got a coin that's been there for 100 years, just let it stay there, and nobody gets any use out of it. Just let it be there.
Yeah.
Or you can come along and dig it up and at least have it back, as opposed to in the ground where nobody can see it. But anyway, I'm rambling on too much here. This is
I agree, and absolutely. We got those people in the hobby like that, or we got people in the hobby that have been, ran into that same problem. I think we all have. I mean, I was asked by the police to leave a park because a neighbor complained, even though it was perfectly legal to metal detect there.
Right.
It's pretty crazy. And, what I always think, and, I'll tell people this too, fill your holes in, take your trash, clean up after yourself, don't leave a mess. I hate that. I hate, because there are some of these people that don't like us have ran into somebody metal detecting that's left everything a mess. It's happened before. Now, not all of them. Some of them are just busybodies, nothing better to do but sit there and complain and everything else. But there are some that they've come across it. They ran into them, and so it works both ways. But we know that there's some busybodies that nothing better to do, but don't give anybody a reason, and I'll tell you, I've never been afraid to pull out a pocket full of trash and say, look what I pulled out of here. Look what's going in the trash. Look at this sharp metal that these kids can get hurt on and stuff. And, so it's.
Well, there's places that I go to occasionally, and I don't really expect to find anything old or deep. But I don't dig holes. I take a probe, and whenever I get a signal, I just use that probe to get the coin out of the ground without digging a hole. That way, nobody can say you're digging holes. The only drawback to that is a deep coin. You can't really get it that way. You have to make a hole. But a lot of times, I'll just go out and do that. And I know I have never had a problem. Anybody say anything to me when I was doing that, as opposed to the same park when I got that E-track. I took it over there, and I knew there was some deep coins over there. So I got my digger, and I was digging. This was on an early Sunday morning when there wasn't very many people out. But this lady that was a little bit older than me, she walked by and she stopped. And she looked and she said, "What are you digging for?" And I said, "Coins." And she, kind of went off, and about 15 minutes later, the police showed up.
Oh, Lord.
You can't be digging. This is a memorial park. They had I forget. I think it was the Confederate soldier or something out there at the park, and they said that you can't be digging in a memorial park. But since then, that's been several years ago. Since then, I've gone back, just using my probe, and nobody has said anything else to me. But I'm sure it was that woman probably,
right.
Called the police or called somebody, because nowadays, as opposed to back when I got started, nowadays everybody's got a phone. So
yeah.
But am I boring you?
No, absolutely not. No.
But
Oh, you talking because I'm yawning? I got a baby.
Yeah.
I'm always tired. I'm never
Okay.
sleeping enough. No, that's all that is. No.
But anyway, I think I'm the only one in this county that doesn't have a phone. I'm on the house phone right now. That's all I have.
Probably. Yeah, you're probably the only one in the county.
But anyway, it's, metal detecting has changed, a lot since I first started.
Yeah. I like talking to the old guys, and, it seems like it was a lot easier to get on property, and it seemed like a lot of the old timers, they would just go hunt it, and the farmers and stuff didn't really care. But nowadays, you better not get caught on property,
right.
Without permission and stuff. But
well,
I know.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know I talked to a guy here in Texas, a younger guy that goes with an older guy, a real old. I want to say he's up in his 80s, and he said, that guy will just go field hunt. He'll go find a field and did the permission or did the research and something there, and he'll just hop right over a fence if it's not posted, and he'll go detecting and stuff. But he's been doing that all of his life.
Yeah.
He said it's changed, and but it's funny nowadays you're liable to get shot or sued or thrown in jail. Randy Collins asked me, or Colin, I'm not sure how to say his last name. Ask him about the cannon.
Which one?
I don't know.
Well, ask him about the cannon in Gonzales or the cannon that I've got.
I think we need to hear both stories. What about this cannon you got?
I've got a cannon that shoots golf balls.
Oh, that's cool. Did you make it?
No. I bought it here in Gonzales. They have a saying: "Come and take it," with the cannon on the flag. And that was back when Texas was trying to get its independence from Mexico. Gonzales was a small settlement, and they were having problems with the Indians uprising, and so they asked the Mexican government for a cannon to protect them. So the Mexican government gave them a cannon, and when they started trying to get their independence from Mexico, whoever, Santa Anna, or I can't remember exactly if it was Santa Anna or who it was, sent some of the Mexican army down here to take the cannon back. And what they did was they turned it on the Mexicans and started shooting at them. So there's a motto now, "Come and take it," with the picture of the cannon. They have flags and all kinds of stuff with "Come and take it." But they have a "Come and take it" celebration every year. I think it's in September, October. And there's a guy that's from, I think he's from Michigan. He comes down and attends that, it's like a big carnival. People have booths, they sell stuff. He brings cannons that he's had made down here to sell them. And I bought one of them one year, and it's bored to shoot a golf ball. And
that's
of course
cool.
You use black powder, and it'll put a golf ball through a car door. I know my son had a repair shop, and he brought over a scrap door one time that they were going to throw away. He said, I want to see if that cannon will go through it. And sure enough, it went through it all right.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
But so I'm not sure if that's what he's talking about or he's talking about the "Come and take it" cannon. But make a long story short, when they started chasing the Mexican army, that cannon kind of became a burden. And so they hid it. They buried it. So nobody, the Mexican army wouldn't find it or whatever while they was chasing them. And for whatever reason, I don't know why they never recovered the cannon, but that cannon got uncovered in, I think it was 1933 or 1932 flood in Gonzales. The postman found it or something. It had been uncovered.
Oh, Wow.
And anyway, they've got it back in their museum, and it's the original cannon.
Oh, how
that they
cool
got
is that?
Army, yeah.
Huh. And turned it on the Mexicans when they come to get it, huh?
Yeah,
How
and
fun
they
is that?
didn't have any cannonballs. Actually, the bore on that thing is not very big. But I read a story on it one time. What they did was they loaded it with nails and pieces of chain and stuff like that, and shot that at the Mexican Army. And I think they did kill one or two of them.
Oh, wow. That's pretty
But
wild.
yeah, Gonzales has a lot of history. It was founded in, I think it was 1835 or 1836. And well, I don't want to say too much. I'm still hunting around there, but
Right.
There's some good old sites around there.
Now, have you ever hunted anything Spanish?
No.
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 I know there's some Spanish here in Texas, but I didn't know if you'd ever hunted. I'd like to get on some Spanish stuff sometime.
I know one time when I lived up by Denton, somebody told me that there used to be a fort. Now, I don't think it was a Spanish fort, but it's supposed to have been some fort. And I went out, it was along a river with the metal detector, and I never could locate anything. So that was, I guess, the closest I came to, hunting a fort or a Spanish fort.
Right. That's pretty neat. Matt, you got anything?
No, I'm just listening. I got some friends that live in Denton. Interesting. I'll have to ask them about that, if they know anything about that.
Where's Denton? I know I've heard of it.
North of Dallas.
It's about a half hour or so from Plano, Dallas area, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know I've heard of it. I just wasn't sure where it was at. That's pretty cool. Dale, anything else? Did I leave anything out?
Well, not that I know of.
Not that you know of. Okay. Well, guys, I'm ready to call tonight if you are.
I just got one more question for you. With the Equinox, do you find that, I mean, obviously you ran the E-Track, you know the E-Track. Do you find that it's, I guess, let me think of the word I'm looking for. I don't want to say, obviously, because they're both different price range machines, so you can't compare them exactly together. One thing you say, obviously, though, that it's a lighter machine. There's no question about that. It's definitely more well balanced than the E-Track was. However, do you find that thing's nose heavy? Do you think the coil's heavy on that?
A little bit, but it's not as bad as the E-Track, But yeah, I was noticing that today. The length, you can only put it out at different increments, because of the pre-drilled holes.
Yeah.
And the way I had it, it was a little bit too short. And then when I tried to go out another increment on that little button, to make the shaft longer, it seemed like it put it out there too long and made the coil kind of, like you say, a little bit heavy, unbalanced. And in fact, yesterday I took it apart and drilled a hole in between. So now I have that's more fitting to my height, and I noticed that, it did help the balance. It made the coil not as heavy as it was, noticeably, with it being further out. So, what was your question again?
and see, and maybe I was just kind of curious if you thought it was nose heavy at all. And I think maybe
it's light enough to not bother me that much, but I know the one thing that I do miss on that Equinox, on that E-Track, is I like the 2 number features. The first one can give you a pretty good clue on what size the object is. So a lot of times you don't dig a lot of the little scrap aluminum, like you can if you don't know exactly what size it is. I do miss that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, with the coordinate system that the E-Track in 3030 have, it's you don't spend time digging a lot of nonsense. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Heck, I might get another one in the future. I don't know. I was looking at some of those other ones too. I know I've got a friend that has a what do you call it, a Deus, the XP Deus.
Oh yeah, it's just what I was leading into almost. Not so much.
I kind of looked at those, but I don't like the fact that you have to. The coil has a battery in it that you have to make sure is charged. You have that.
Okay, so you're saying exactly what I said for years.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what I did. I was really intrigued by the XP, the ORX, which is basically like a scale. I don't even call it a scaled down version. It's got a lot less options and stuff than the Deus does, but the ORX, it uses basically the same setup, and you got a crazy light. I mean, you talk about a machine that weighs absolutely nothing. Unbelievable. And truthfully, I've done really well with that in some field sites now, and I began to really like it. So, but what I was a big anti-naysayer about the whole charging the coil and everything, but man, the cable comes, it's got 3 ports on it, you just pop it on, and it's like, because everything's wireless, you can just pop that lower shaft right out and toss it right next, or pop the head unit off, or I mean, it's pretty slick. I definitely, after using it, have changed my mind and direction on what I've previously said about that. But talk about a super light and very robust for as small as it is. Very strong and solid machine. I've been beating that thing into corn stalks, and I was just absolutely impressed. But yeah, I was just kind of curious with on the Equinox, only because I like to have my coil like out as far as possible. I like it way far away from my body, and I found that on that machine, the way that I would prefer to where I'd have it lengthwise and swing, it just felt. It reminded me a lot of the AT Pro. It just felt very nose heavy to me.
Yeah. Well, I know I've heard some people say that some of these machines, their phones will interfere with them too.
Yeah.
Their cell phones.
I've heard that too.
But I don't have to worry about that since I don't have one. but
I can't say I've ever had a phone interfere with one of my detectors, but I'm sure it's possible.
Well, when that Equinox first came out, I was hearing reports of that people were having some issues. I read a bunch of stuff about that, and then they said once they put it on like airplane mode, it was fine, but that it was actually interfering. Now, I don't know if they changed something in the software. Maybe it doesn't do that anymore. I'm not sure.
Well, I may have to get a cell phone and find out.
That's pretty funny. You're way better off without them. I don't know. There's days I think, I wish I didn't have this phone.
I've gone 67 years without one, but there was the day that I broke down out in the country and had to walk a pretty good ways back to a phone. That kind of made me wish I had one at that time.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's I'll tell you, there's days it's like, wish I didn't even have a phone, and then I'll go to leave the house and I'll forget it and I'll turn around. I could be just going down the park down the road, do some metal detecting, and I got to turn around from my phone because you get so used to it you can't be without it. But
that's the way I am with my gun.
I'm
used to carrying a gun all the time that I feel naked now without it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've kind of gotten a little laxed in taking a gun with me everywhere, but I should get back into it. You never know. Right.
Well, that guy that
how I
I
am
worked
with my
for, Ray Smith, he always said, because he kept one. Now this is back before they had the concealed carry permits for everybody, but he always carried one. He said, "I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it."
Yep,
And
absolutely.
He was telling me one time that he got into a argument with some guys at a bar one night, and I guess everybody was drinking and everything, and he had a gun, a pistol up under his seat. Well, he ran to the car because those guys were after him, and he started reaching up under the seat to try to find the pistol, and all I could find was somebody's swimming trunks that they'd left up under the seat.
Oh, that's funny. Beer,
anyway.
alcohol, and guns don't mix real well anyhow.
Right,
yeah, boy, that'll get you in trouble.
That's why I don't drink.
Yeah. I can't say the same for me, but I don't overdo it anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the last time I had a beer was probably about a year ago, and around Christmas time I do put a little bit of whiskey and eggnog, but that's about it for me.
Yeah.
I never was a real big drinker, but anyway, I know you're getting tired.
Well, yeah, I'm not so. I'm always tired. That ain't the issue. I'm getting tired of sitting here, though. I'm kind of getting cramped up, and I think it's a good time to end it, guys. What do you think?
All right. Are you on a landline?
No, I'm doing it through the computer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Well, so could I have done it through the computer if I knew how to do it?
Yeah, if all I'm using is Skype, if you had a Skype number, we could do it.
Oh, I don't think I have one of those.
Or even you don't even need a Skype number if you've got Skype, which is a free thing. We pay for Skype on our end so we can make calls and stuff. But yeah, as long as you got a Skype, Matt's you're running it through Skype, correct? Yeah. Matt's through Skype.
I'm running through Skype as beats the days of when I first started doing the podcast with Mike, I had to go sit in my car and do it from my car because between my son and daughter, not so much my wife, but my son and daughter, when you tell them hey, be quiet, that means nothing to them. Now my son's 7 and my daughter's 2, so I didn't expect that they would listen. But then I finally put a new door back on my office, and it's great now. I can shut the door, lock it, and keep everyone out. And yeah, it's great.
I'm shocked we haven't been doing a show and there's beating at the door. Dad.
Oh, you have, but usually what happens as soon as he starts banging on the door, I hit the mute button, I open the door, and I just raise my arms seriously? Come on.
That's funny. That is funny. Dale, I've had a lot of fun tonight, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Well, I have too,
Yes,
and I appreciate you thinking that I'm, notable enough to ask questions of.
Well, anybody that's been detecting since 71, you got to have some knowledge after that long,
You just said the exact same thing I was going to say. If you've been detecting that long, obviously you know something.
Yeah,
always check your hole.
Absolutely, right.
That's the one bit of, advice that I would give everybody. Always double check the hole.
Everybody, nowadays everybody knows that and says that, but do you know how many times I've gone up to somebody's hole and found something? It's kind of amazing. It's a simple thing, and a lot of people know, but they say it more than they practice it.
I did the same thing today. I went to the park. I know you're ready to go, but I went to the park and I got this signal, and I thought, well, that's somebody has just recently dug and covered that up, and so I thought, well, I'm going to see what it was. It was a piece of aluminum that they had dug up and stuck back in the hole instead of carrying it off.
There's nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
That drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, just a piece of trash. Leave it in the ground. Yeah, people are, and that's the kind of stuff that hurts the hobby that we need to.
Well, I figured it was probably a kid or a beginner or somebody that didn't know any better. But at least they covered the hole.
Yeah, at least they did that, right? Yeah.
I know I've gone to parks where somebody had been up there, and I spent a lot of the time covering up their holes.
Oh,
just
wow.
because I didn't want anybody thinking that it was me that did it.
Right.
I want to tell a story real quick. This is a real short one. I detected this yard across the street from my parents' house one time, and it wasn't even in that old of a house, but which turns out where the dirt came from was an old hospital when they used it for fill dirt. So I did find really old stuff there that was really cool. However, and I pride myself on digging a very nice 3-sided plug, retrieving my target, putting it back, and it looks beautiful when I'm done. So I went back over to my parents' house the next day, and I was looking across the street, and I see all these plugs torn up, and I'm thinking, man, I know I didn't do that. What the hell's going on here? And so I walk across the street. Well, here there was a bunch of grubs in the yard, and everywhere where I had dug, them skunks came out that night and tore into all those holes and had them all flipped up and tore up. And I felt really bad. And the lady, and I talked to her, and she's like, yeah, I know you didn't do that. And I'm like, I just want you to realize that was not me. She's like, oh, no, I realized that wasn't you. She's like, I think the skunks got in there because they had easy access to get to some of those grubs.
Squirrels.
Down here, the hogs will do that, too.
Huh.
The wild hogs.
Yeah.
I've noticed there's an area that I go to that it's in the city, but it's close enough to the woods where the wild hogs will come out at night. And I've noticed that before. A place that I had dug and covered it up, it was uncovered. And it's the hogs rooting around in there for grub and stuff.
Wow. I know I've seen squirrels do the same thing as well. They'll go back and go in your hole. I don't know if they think you got nuts or you were digging their nuts up or what, but I've had squirrels come back and do that. Yeah.
Well,
Dang squirrels. But, yeah, you never know. Randy's talking about on some website or some app, I'm not sure, Macari? I've never heard of it. Talking about an old Nautilus for sale.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And him and Bill, I think both of them have mentioned it before. There needs to be an old vintage detector hunt. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Are you talking about the operators or the metal detectors?
The metal detectors. Both.
I know at one time there used to be a NTHL metal detector, and all that was a Garrett metal detector that Ray Smith put his sticker on. But I've been looking for one of those on the internet, on eBay, just to have it for the heck of it, know? Because this was back in I'm not sure when he stopped doing that, but I think probably about 70 or 71 when he quit making the NTHL version of the Garrett, which, like I said, all it was, they just stuck the sticker on.
Yeah.
It was basically a Garrett.
I'll tell you something funny. You kind of bring that up that I come across a lot that cracks me up. I don't know if they're trying to put one over on somebody or if they just don't know. They bought the detector 15, but I'll see 15, 20-year-old detectors, and they're not collectible, but they're out of date, and they want, what I just see the other day, it was a White's I had never even heard of, I'm going to guess it was probably from the maybe early 90s, but late 80s, and they wanted like $500-600 for it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, gee, I see a lot of that. Like some of these old ones, not real old, not back in the 70s or anything, but, really out of date detectors, and they want a bunch. Heck, I've seen XLTs listed for as high as $500-600.
Yeah. I've seen some of the older Garretts like that, and, that they probably don't work because the older Garretts, of course, they had transistors. And just with time, those transistors, stop working, especially if they've been out in any kind of a heat for any length of time or whatever. So, yeah, these lot of those people that have those high prices, they probably never sell them.
Yeah, I sure wouldn't think so. But it's kind of funny to run across some of that stuff and think, wow, why are they asking so much for it? There's no way. I don't know.
I found an old Garrett BFO. It was probably about a 76 or 7, something like that, 76, 77. It had the discrimination feature in it. But they didn't have any batteries for it. It took, I think that one took it was 4 9-volt batteries. But, they had like $100 for it. And I told them, I said, well, chances are it doesn't work. Do y'all have any batteries? And no, they don't have any batteries. I said, well, I would take a chance on it, and I would pay $30 for it. And so they called the guy that was in charge of the estate sale. He said, okay, sell it to him. Well, I got it, and sure enough, it doesn't work. But still, I got to hang it up in my garage.
Yeah.
Kind of neat to have it up, hanging up there. I've got a lot of the old metal detectors that I've had that quit working. I've got them hanging them up out in my garage. So
right.
It went on the wall, the rest of them.
Yeah, you can't beat that. Why not? Well, guys, I'm ready to wrap it up.
Okay.
I apologize. This is my second show in a row, and by Tuesdays I'm a little wore out, and it's time to get the little one to bed and everything else. So.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It sure was an experience. Let me put it that way. I've never had anybody that cared, what I found or how long I've been doing it or whatever, before.
Oh.
So it's a nice experience.
Dale, it's our pleasure. We're so happy to get you on, and sure beats people sitting around listening to me and Matt talk. I can promise you that. I can promise you that. People get tired of us, for sure. So, yeah. All right, guys, let's call it a night. Good night. Appreciate it.
Right.
Keep in touch. Dale, I think you've
Alrighty.
got my phone number. Keep in touch, and
Yes, sir, I do.
maybe we can get you on again. Give me a call anytime. I love talking metal detecting anytime.
Or if you ever get down this area, well, let me know.
Absolutely, and if you get up this way, let me know.
You're in Killeen, right?
No, I'm in Cleburne.
Cleburne, okay.
Yeah, I'm about an hour south of Fort Worth.
Okay.
Not far off of
Alrighty.
35, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but keep in touch.
I sure will.
All right. Good night,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much, Dale.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Bye.
All right, there you have it. Boy, he's fun, wasn't he? It was nice talking to Dale, and we'll have to get him back on down the road. Don't forget, we dig the Civil War headquarters on Facebook. All these are going to be Facebook. Zero Discrimination. She's also on YouTube. Girls Rock Metal Detecting on Facebook and YouTube. Ohio Relic Hunting on Facebook. Dirt Pirates Detecting on Facebook. Don't forget the new Dirt Digest magazine. It's a free online metal detecting magazine. There's some absolutely great articles. They've got their first issue out. Second one coming here in May. I think they released it at the beginning of May, but it's dirtdigestmagazine.com. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.